Have you ever watched like a Squid Game in Netflix?
Yes.
And do you remember, when the player make mistake or pen or foul, then immediately they got killed in the Squid Game.
Right.
Like this is in how the Japanese people feel. You should not bring biryani to like a cancel like the Japanese cultures. But usually I'm so silent. I never talk because I'm Japanese. The Japanese are so quiet.
I hear, yes.
And some people think Japanese doesn't have any like emotions.
So do you see yourself as an informal diplomat for Japanese culture? Japan is a country that is known for its deep connection with tradition. Much of its rich culture comes from its adherence to two religious beliefs, Shintoism and Buddhism, but it also has been influenced by Chinese Confucianism. The Japanese value purity and cleanliness. Unlike Western individualism, Japanese culture places a great deal of attention on the group and mutual respect and strong emphasis on harmony and balance. Although globalization has brought with it westernization, there is still a great emphasis on learning Japanese customs at an early age, such as practicing the tea ceremony, wearing the kimono, and studying arts and crafts. My guest today, Dr. Naoki Yamamoto, converted to Islam 14 years ago. He is now an academic at Istanbul's Marmara University and helps a growing number of Japanese converts acclimatize to their Islamic commitments, many of whom attend classes in this city of Istanbul. Dr. Naoki argues that for Islam to be successful in Japan, it needs to work in harmony with Japanese culture. Indeed, he is known in Istanbul for demonstrating the tea ceremony. Today, I want to discuss Muslim converts in Japan and the themes he raises of cultural harmony and Islam. Can Islam adopt the cultural heritage of Japan? Dr. Naoki Yamamoto, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and it's a pleasure to have you with us on The Thinking Muslim.
Oh, wa alaikum salam. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I've been thinking to invite you for some time, and I know you've brought with you a lot of artifacts, cultural artifacts, and alhamdulillah, you've changed. You've made
I brought my toys.
You've brought some Zen maybe to my studio here. So we really are going to talk about culture today, and maybe zoom out and think about how culture fits in to Islam and the way we as Muslims view the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dr. Naoki, when I meet a Japanese person, I think, according to Japanese culture, I'm not meant to shake their hands or make any physical contact. But Muslims, as you know, shake hands. Muslims, they hug. Some Muslims, Arab Muslims, they kiss you as well, which I find sometimes a bit uncomfortable. How does a Japanese convert navigate these different cultures?
To be honest, let me start from my own experiences.
Yeah.
For example, I became Muslim 14 years ago.
Yes.
And I became Muslim in Egypt. And I went to in Cairo to study standard Arabic. So I studied in Arabic like a language school.
Yeah.
At the time, I was a non-Muslim. But everywhere I walked street on the like Zamalek or like a Gama Hussein or every a street. And for example, when I entered a restaurant, they always welcome me like Ya Habibi, Ya Habibi, and they all hug me. But I still remember the warmth that when they hug, and of course this I don't know how can I say this physical
Contact. Yeah, physical contact.
might be really new to Japanese, but I can definitely say that now especially Japanese youth they're really struggling and suffering from loneliness.
Right.
They feel some attachment, and it may be very strange to them, but also it has a really beautiful impact. Really? Because I still remember the warmth they hug me, they walk in, they shake hands with me.
Yes.
And sometimes this hugging might be more inspiring than just talking about Islam or arguing about Islam or proving Islam in words. Yeah. And I'm also becoming old. I'm 33 years old, and also becoming an old man. And when you get age, it's really difficult to adapt to different cultures.
Yes.
For example, now I live in Turkey for 5 years, and I can say that every day I encounter something different from Japanese culture.
Yeah.
But especially for the young people, they are adaptable. They are more open towards the different cultures. Yeah. For example, now the 6 non-Muslim. Japanese students are studying Turkish language at the Ibn Haldun University for
Mashallah.
the intensive like Turkish language like summer school.
Ah,
But they're really enjoying in Turkey, like living in Istanbul.
yes.
And some of them are really open to the Turkish cultures, and they're always like going out Istanbul and just traveling. So yes, like there are so many differences, but we also must not forget that we should not like orientalize like ourselves. It means like that it's, in the end, this is just a cultural difference.
Yes.
Yes.
That's very interesting. And so you've talked there about a Japanese exchange. There are students here who are Muslims. They become Muslims and they're learning. They're non-Muslims?
Which one?
The students at Ibn Haldun who have come for the summer
they are like
course.
non-Muslim.
Yeah.
But I also have like my Japanese like Muslim students.
Yes.
Like 2 of them are studying at Ibn Haldun.
Yeah.
And another one they're studying the Turkish language schools.
Yeah.
And another 2 Japanese Muslim will also come to Istanbul
Really?
to study like Islamic studies.
Okay.
Yes. And there are also, and one of the beautiful thing about Istanbul is that this Istanbul city itself, it has like it has a really beautiful like a cultures.
Yes.
Like it means like you can feel that Islam is not about the words. Islam is not about ideologies. Like Islam is like how you live.
Yes.
Because I myself is also like a minority Muslim, so I live in Japan.
Yes.
And maybe like you know better, but living Muslim in a non-Muslim country is tough. Like,
Yes.
sometimes it's really challenging.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to encounter like kind of like uncomfortable questions, or something you have to prepare like every day, like every morning when you wake up.
Yes.
That you have to be ready. That when you go to the schools or universities or the company, there's somebody that you have to expect. You have to ready. There's somebody that asks you uncomfortable questions or something you have to argue with that.
Yeah.
But not everyone is like the super genius. Like we are not like a Ghazali.
Yes.
And sometimes you fail to argue some things. And something at the time you feel so lonely, and you think that we think that we are the failure.
Right.
But still but in Istanbul, at least there's another Japanese like brother who recently came to Istanbul, and he said to me that in Istanbul, that you feel that you belong to this community.
Right.
You belong to these people.
Yeah.
And this is one of the beautiful things about like living in Istanbul. And especially like for the like new like Japanese Muslim converts, that in order not to see Islam as just like the fixed, I don't know, like internet like package that you can download and install or something.
Yes.
Like I want my Japanese students to know that Islam is like a way of living. And this like way of living means that Islam is not about like becoming like something like perfect like a Muslim, but this is try and error. The journey of like making mistakes or like trying to correct ourselves and trying to guiding ourselves to the hakika or the haq. The whole process is like a beautiful journey. And to something, Turkey is really like a good country that which give us this opportunity to contemplate what does it mean to be Muslims, and what does it mean to like seek the Islam.
You talked there about the potential friction that may exist when someone becomes a Muslim in Japan. You became a Muslim 14 years ago. So just explain that potential friction. What type of questions and what type of atmosphere was created around you and your family when you became Muslim?
To be honest, like personally, I didn't encounter like any like discriminations or like challenges among my social
immediate group
circle.
Yeah.
But I heard some stories that when they become Muslim, some people ask them that you become. Some people saying to them that you become like terrorist, or. Also, like in Japanese society, drinking alcohol is like really important to socialize.
Okay.
Like the drinking alcohol means that to showing like like love towards others, and it's really difficult to turn down invitation to like a drinking party.
Yes.
And when you cannot like attend, this we call nomikai, means like drinking party. That is really difficult to like make friends. And I heard some stories like that there are some Japanese Muslims who are struggling to, the suffering that they lose the human like friends or like the relationship they had before becoming Muslims, and they have to like rebuild themselves. Well, another like challenges I heard from my friends is that, for example, like when like Muslim like children try to practice some like Japanese like cultures, like karate or the Japanese tea ceremony.
Yeah.
Like in the Muslim like parents or the family, they are really afraid that they are engaging with so-called like a non-Muslim like cultures,
Right.
or like the something they call like the infidel like cultures.
Ah.
For example, I also encountered like similar like things. I think it was like summer festival something. You know, I wear like a Japanese kimono like this.
Yes.
And the one like Japanese not Japanese, no, Muslim brother, that he didn't have bad intention, but he innocently asked me that why you wearing the infidel like clothes.
In Japan.
Yes, in Japan.
He was a Japanese.
Not Japanese, but still, I don't remember his nationalities. But at the time, I was really shocked because I never thought that, you know, these Japanese cultures or like a clothes or practice is something called like an infidel like a cultures.
Yes.
And at the time, you know, I was still like a new Muslim, so you know, I was really ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
That it seems that, you know, I am the inheritor of this like infidel like a culture.
So was there an expectation that you had to dispense with all of Japanese culture to become a true Muslim?
Yes, because like some like, you know, like Muslim friends like asked me that, you know, I need to like be more like a pure like a Muslims. But here like, you know, usually this the pure means like, you know, the like discard like Japanese culture and embrace like Arab Islamic cultures, or like Pakistani Islamic cultures, or Indonesian like Islamic cultures, which is very good. And, you know, they all like beautiful like, Islamic cultures.
Yes.
But now, like 14 years has passed, like since I became Muslim.
Yes.
You know, I have started to think that, you know, there's a meaning that I was born and raised as a Japanese, and also I chose the way of Islam, and now I become like a Japanese like Muslim like a convert. And I read, you know, one article which is written by the Sheikh Umar Farooq Abdullah, which is the Islam and Cultural Imperative. And in the introduction of this article, he argued that, you know, Islam itself is like colorless. It's like a life-giving like force. It's like water.
Yeah.
So it only has like a sweet and like inspiring energy. And this in the water or tawhid reflect, you know, color of the indigenous like soil.
Right.
So it means like when Islam like reached to the like Persia, it reflect, you know, Persian like cultures. And when it reached like Turkey, that it create like Anatolian like Islamic cultures. And when it reached the subcontinent, it creates like Pakistani like Islamic cultures or Bengali Islamic cultures.
Really?
And in China is also the same, and Africa. So then like why not like Japanese like Islamic cultures? I'm not talking about like dogmatic things. Like dogma is always the same.
Yeah.
But there is, but for example, like when I say about, you know, this Japanese Islamic cultures, like I avoid using like Islamic cultures. I always use like Islamicate cultures, which I following the definition of the definition coined by Marshall Hudson, a famous historian.
Yes. Yeah.
In his famous book, you know, The Venture of Islam, he strictly used clarify the definition of what it means like Islamic and what it means like Islamicate. And here, according to Marshall Hudson, like Islamic or Islam is only is about religion, and religion like universal teaching. That whenever they go, it's always the same.
Yes.
But this Islamicate, it's like it's more like a cultural aspect or like a culture, which is imagined or invented by a Muslim, but can be shared by both Muslim and also like a non-Muslim. So here, like my so-called Japanese Islamic cultural like a project. Like, I'm trying to like design like handicraft or the like calligraphies or this like tea ceremony projects. Like, they all, you know, I want to create something which is strongly like inspired by Islamic spirituality, but I want to create something which can be like practiced or enjoyed by both Muslim and also like a non-Muslim.
So are you trying to Islamize aspects of Japanese culture?
So here, like this, I don't mean to like Islamize Japanese cultures. I'm trying to find like the beauty of Japanese like, cultures, and try to create like new creativities. Here, for example, a good example is that this is like a Japanese like tea set, which I use like for my Japanese tea ceremony.
Yes.
And this is called natsume, like tea container.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, natsume means tamar, dates.
Yeah.
So this existence of natsume, this tea container itself, shows that Japanese culture is like open culture because dates never grow in Japan. This is imported like a fruit, which came to I don't know the early like 13th century, 15th century. I don't know exactly the date. But here, for example, like in this like tea container, that in this tea ceremony, this tea master they always like bring like a different tea container which reflects the beauty of the every season. For example, now it's summer, so I bring the tea container which shows the like beauty of the like young like leaves, like green like leaves.
Yes.
And another like in the characteristic of this the aesthetics of the Japanese tea ceremony is that they're trying to show the beauty of like simplicity.
Yes.
I mean, this is so not now this table is not the manifestation of simplicity because like too many toys, but but for example, usually like they prefer to use like this black color. But the black color is represent the pure like heart, which removed all the destruction of this dunya. And during this tea ceremony performance, there is a moment that tea master carefully like clean the tea container, and this is actually like a metaphorical like performances. Like when you clean this tea container, actually you're cleaning your heart. So this is like aim of this tea ceremony. So this tea ceremony is not like a superficial like Starbucks things like just like having a coffee, like sipping a coffee for fun. Like this tea ceremony actually is spiritual like a training, which is practiced by like a Japanese like artist. Then I call this imagining Japanese Islamic culture as like a process of like semantic reconstruction. It means like when Japanese artists use this tea container or the performances of polishing the tea container as a metaphor of the cleaning the heart, that we can also bring like a similar like practices in the Islamic cultures and try to like combine it.
Right.
So this, based on this idea, for example, I have started to design like Islamicate like a tea container.
So this has Arabic calligraphy on it.
Yes. Have you ever visited Bursa?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Have you visited Ulu Jami?
Yes, of course.
There are lots of Islamic calligraphy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you saw this in the calligraphy in Ulu Jami.
Probably so. Yes.
This is four wall like calligraphy. And some Turkish like dervishes, like Sufi master.
Yes.
They interpret this four wa. So two wa is the metaphor of the Asmaullah Husna, the beautiful names of Allah.
Yes.
So this two wa is the metaphor of the person who are longing for Allah.
Right.
So this is the metaphor of like zikr, like Allah, like Allah.
Yes.
So like when we are like organizing this called Islamic tea ceremony, the tea master can like this polishing this tea container, and we can use like a metaphorical performances, like how Muslims are trying to like clean their heart by like remembering Allah, like a zikr. So in this way, and I'm not like trying to create like an additional like a religious like the practices towards Islam. Like this is like how could be like a method to introduce like Islamic spirituality to like non-Japanese audiences, because in Ottoman times, the Ottoman scholar they classify the ilm, the knowledges, into two categories. One is the ilm qad, and another one is the ilm had. The ilm qad and ilm had. And qad is like a qawl in the words. So it's the knowledges which can be conveyed through like words or the argument, and ilm had is like a knowledges which cannot be conveyed through the words. It means the knowledges can be like conveyed through the atmosphere. Or like spiritualities.
Right.
So this like a Japanese like handicraft is like like a practice of this like ilmi hal. Like you don't have to like also like 200 or 300 like volumes like books, or you don't have to like like you don't have to like write academic articles, or you don't have to organize like YouTube channels and try to like debate like among like atheists or something. Like it could be also like in the influencing way, but there is like a hadith which called tuhaddis nas ala qadri uqulihim. Like to حدث الناس على قدر عقولهم. Or another riwayah says that حدث الناس بما يعرفون. حدث الناس بما يعرفون. And when I observe the Japanese culture, like I see like so many like ilmi had practices.
Right.
Like Japanese, like now I'm into like interviewing like programs, so I'm a little bit talkative. But usually I'm so silent. I never talk because I'm Japanese. The Japanese are so quiet.
I hear, yes.
And some people think Japanese doesn't have any like emotions or heart because they never talk something. But actually, it's not. Like we are practicing this ilmihad.
Right.
Like for example, this during tea ceremony is also the same. Like usually the tea master never talk, but they try to like prepare like 1 cup of tea with like utmost like a care.
Yes.
And this is based on this Japanese aesthetics that if you cannot take care of this in one single like a cup of tea with utmost like focus, then you cannot like serve to the others, or you can serve to loved one because everything should be like equal. So this tea ceremony is like this like a process of nurturing this spirituality, so like to like engaging with like the like handicrafts or art of the like ilmihad.
Yes.
So another. I'm sorry, I'm going off.
No, please.
Maybe. Another like tea container I have designed. It's called. Can you read? This is also Persian and Turkish. Means hiç, like nothingness.
Right.
Have you ever visited like Uzbek Red Tekkesi?
No.
It's in Uskidar. I'm sure you haven't visited actually. The Uzbek Tekkesi is in the top of the hill of Uskidar, and this Sufi lodges, and now it's not used for Sufi lodges because you know the whole history of the Turkish Republic.
Sure. Yeah.
But before the modernization, the Ottoman, the Uzbek like traveler, usually dervishes, they stop in this Uzbek Tekkesi on the way to the Hajj, and when they stay there, they are practicing like Naqshbandi, like zikr, or like Sufi, or the training, or they're using for the education. And I have visited this Uzbek Tekkesi, I think 11 or 12 years ago, when I was still undergraduate, and when I entered the Sufi lodges, there was a calligraphy hang in the like entrance, and it said like hiç. And at the time, I didn't know Persian nor Turkish because I only knew Japanese. But I asked my like Turkish friend like what is the meaning of this calligraphy, and he told me the story that hiç means nothingness, and this nothingness is the purpose of like Sufi training.
Right.
Because he said like in the modern education, we always try to become like a someone, or like we trying to get like a something. But in the Sufi training, that we all try to become like a nothing, to clean our heart and to serve like only for our Lord. So, and I am really inspired by story, like that memory still like lingers in my heart. So that's why I have designed this like a tea ceremony handicraft. It's called, I call this like hiç natsume. I'm working with the non-Muslim like Japanese traditional artisan in Kyoto.
Yes.
Now, because now the Japanese have become so modernized and also secularized. So like I think most of the Japanese like they go to like IKEA. Do you know IKEA?
IKEA, yes. Yeah.
Because if you are like a believer of the capitalism, like in the furniture in IKEA is like reasonable and also is like well designed. So there is no reason for like a modern Japanese to show respect to their like traditional like handicrafts.
Yeah.
So that's why now Japanese artisans are like losing job and really struggling.
Really?
But as like a Japanese Muslim, for example, like which one is like more like Islamicate, like buying your furniture and like going to IKEA and buying your furniture, or like going to like traditional like atelier where you can where this Japanese traditional artisan are working and also like visiting them and trying to like design like a new like Islamic handicraft to support like a traditional like Japanese cultures.
Yes.
I think the latter one is more like Islamicate because like when I'm designing this Japanese tea container, for example, I explained history of the Urjami or the Bursa, and also the history of Ottoman Empire, and also to the non-Muslim like Japanese artisan, I also explained the spirituality of hiç. But every time I told this story, they never, these Japanese artisans, they never show any discriminations, and they're really interested in hearing the stories. And like some people ask me, especially like Muslim like brothers and sisters, ask me that what would be like the best like da'wah, and the best way to like teach Islam to the Japanese audiences. But we have to be really careful because like now everybody's talking about da'wah, but in the same time, I feel like I found a little bit arrogance in my heart because this always talking about dawah, showing that that we are believing that we have the enough authorities or that we are capable enough to like teach like Islam to like non-Muslim audiences. But imagine like if the Japanese like even though they're already into Islam, if the Muslim are trying to teach Muslim or came to Japan with the attitude that we know something and trying to teach that this one is like Islamic, this one is non-Islamic, and this one is halal, and this one is haram. Like people get tired of it because the Japanese are already feeling stressed. Like 20 people are committing suicide. Like they are already living living daily life with a strong pressure, and they don't want the extra pressure.
Yes.
But without design, it's like when I did Japanese handicrafts, and when I'm having a discussion with the Japanese artisan, I also think that this is also like a humble, like a dawah.
Yeah.
Because in this way, I am able to talk about like Islamic like spiritualities.
Can I ask you a question? So your basic thesis is that for Islam to be successful, and I'm sure we'll question what is successful, but for Islam to be successful in Japan, Muslims cannot afford to present a culture that is distinct from Japanese culture. In fact, your argument seems to be that yes, we can rework sometimes or add to Japanese culture, but when we convey Islam, and that conveyance doesn't have to be necessarily through word, but when we convey Islam, we have to be very mindful of Japanese culture. Is your basic argument that dawah is really impossible or very difficult in Japan without first rooting it in Japanese culture?
I have like some option to introduce like Islam to like Japanese audiences. Like I also like believe that this cultural activity is really important for Japanese, but also in the same time, like Islam can be like exotic.
Yes.
And also Muslim can be exotic.
Yeah.
But when you want to like try to introduce Islam, then first we have to know that what the Japanese really want to know, or what the Japanese are like searching.
Yes.
And what is the Japanese like suffering. It means that we have to know like a context. For example, you could wear like Arabic clothes, or you can speak like Arabic, or you can speak like Persians, or you can bring like biryani to like Japanese societies, and everything can be exotic. But still, like it should be introduced in a way that Japanese find some like comfort when they encounter this Islam.
Yeah.
Because as I said, now every year like 20,000 people commit suicide, like 20,000 people, like it's huge.
Right.
And
so there's a discontentment in Japanese society.
Discontentment, and I can really say like a despair. And also, have you ever watched like a Squid Game in Netflix?
Yes.
Did you watch Squid Game?
We have a South Korean.
TV. You should watch. You're Korean.
For our audience, we have someone from South Korea here today.
I'm so. So some people think that this is just like the shallow, like a superficial, like, entertaining movie, but actually it's not. It's a reflection of the modern like Korean societies, and also like I feel so many like similar like problem.
Yeah, in Japan,
it also exists in Japan.
So there is loneliness,
and like ugly, like competing, and people ought to always try to like condemn or like judge people without knowing the context. And you remember when the player make mistake or penalty foul, then immediately they go killed in the Squid Game.
Right.
Like this is in how the Japanese people feel.
Really.
For example, what is the most missing in the contemporary Japanese society is the culture of the forgiveness, or the culture of showing like empathy. That's why I'm saying like you can bring, for example, like biryani to the Japanese society, but you should not bring biryani to like cancel like the Japanese cultures, or like try to like deny like a Japanese cuisine. Like for example, if you find like a Japanese who are like, so you can bring this biryani to like a Japanese who are really like suffering with like a loneliness or like or suffering.
But I'm struggling to understand when you say bring biryani. Of course, traditionally when Muslims want to do dawah, they don't bring biryani. They bring a message of hope. They bring Quran. They bring Islamic arguments, or Islamic discussion points. If you live in a society which has a vacuum and it's empty, and as you said, there's a lack of forgiveness and a lack of empathy, then surely some of the talking points of Islam would really fit within the vacuum that is felt within Japanese society. Is that not? Do you understand my?
Yes, I understand. But actually, this is based on my experiences. For example, like when I went to Cairo,
Yes.
like I already read at least 100 like books about Islam,
Oh,
and I already have like enough knowledge, but I'm not yet convinced because what I learned from the book and what I see from Egyptian society is so different. Like I don't see any like so-called like Islamic practices when I first came to like Cairo.
Yes.
But I also explained the first Ramadan there. Ramadan.
Yes.
And at the time, I was in the daytime. I studied like, Arabic in the language school.
Yeah.
And after that, I'm going back to my like shakka, the apartment.
Mm.
And like a bawab, the gatekeeper in Egypt. So,
yes.
so there was like a bawab in my apartment where I was living.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was already like after Maghrib. So this gatekeeper was having his like iftar, but he was eating like only like one cucumber. Like one cucumber and one water.
Wow.
Like, he was living a really decent life.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'm still non-Muslim. But when I came back to the apartment, and when this bawab like saw me, and I saw him, he immediately gave his like a cucumber, like a last remaining cucumber, like to me without any hesitation. And at that time, I am convinced that there are the people who are really believing like Islam. They're really practicing Islam.
Great.
So this is why I'm talking about this biryani, because some people think that Islam, that Islam can only introduce like correctly through like a words first, and then they will start practices. But in my case, first I still remember the taste of cucumber. Like it's not tasty at all. It was hideous, but still, I never had such a sweet cucumber in my whole life. Because it contains like a taste of like ihsan. So this is why I'm talking about the power of like ilmihad, atmosphere.
Yes.
Because he put his dua into this like a humble like a cucumber.
Okay, so your original discussion was about trying to bring Islam in line with, or at least attuned to, aspects of traditional, or reviving even, because maybe the younger population have lost connection with some of these old traditions. So reviving these old traditions, but bringing an Islamic veneer to it, or an Islamic part to it. But at the same time, I find in the West, especially amongst British people, so I'm talking now from a British experience, a lot of non-Muslims, they come to Islam because they feel Islamic values. So as you said, the atmosphere of Islam, but they feel those Islamic values, not just in observing Islamic texts, but through observing Islamic cultures. So the very fact that outside of the masajid, you have got Muslims who are very close to one another, and they hug one another, and they're very relatable, and they try to share in each other's problems. That softens them to Islam. Or for example, our brother here who's from Korea, he saw the way in which Muslims they view gender roles, and they observe the role of a man and his responsibility, and the role of women, and how Islam builds in a type of structure in society that is in line with your fitrah, right? So these values come from, I suppose my question is, for the ordinary Japanese person, if he was to observe, or she was to observe Islam and Islamic practice and even Muslim cultures, wouldn't that endear them towards Islam?
Wouldn't
that bring them closer to Islam?
I think so, but as I said, I think that right now the most thing that in the Japanese one is like in the spirit of forgiveness. So you don't have to show the full package of Islamic cultures.
Right.
Just show like one tiny practice of forgiveness that could be like convincing enough for Japanese to embrace Islam. Right. This is what I feel.
Yeah.
But as for going back to the culture of product.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, if you're just like a believer of the capitalism, there's no reason for Japanese to buy like traditional handicraft. But for the Muslim, for the Muslim, we have a reason to show respect to like to the Japanese traditional cultures. For example, now today I wear this traditional Japanese clothes called kimono. Kimono.
Yeah.
Like I believe like this is so Islamicate.
Yes,
because it covers like a body line.
Yeah,
and I think this is more Islamic, like a modern, like a suits, like Western suits, or like a tight like t-shirts and jeans.
Like fisting, yes.
So it means like Muslims have more like a stronger reason to wear this Japanese like a kimono.
Yes, yeah.
And remember, like, for example, like my like Japanese Muslim like brother, friend, innocently asked me why I'm wearing like infidel clothes.
Yeah.
But I studied the history of kimono after that. And do you know that? Do you know these like inner like a shirt when we wear like over the kimono?
Okay.
And the name of this inner kimono is called juban. Juban.
Okay.
It's from Arabic.
Oh.
Can you guess which word? Like juban, juba.
Jubba,
yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit slow.
No,
Yes.
no, it's tougher than that.
Yeah.
So actually, it's originally Arabic clothes.
How does it
So
explain the
so-
etymology?
So, yes. So in the 14th century, 15th century, so
Yeah.
Japanese merchant bought jubba
Ah.
from I think the merchant from the Portuguese,
Oh,
and they had a connection with the Andalus. So
Yes.
so they also bring like Muslim clothes.
yes.
And there is no strong historical records, but some of the studies shows that Japanese merchants they love the beauty of the jubba so much,
Yeah.
so they started to wear this jubba as like inner like a kimono,
Ah.
and this juban is like Japanese like so Japanese accent of the jubba. So when we wearing this kimono, actually the Japanese are wearing a half Arab and half Japanese like cultures.
Do the Japanese generally understand this, or it's not
I
common?
mean, when they Google the Japan, yeah, it says
It's on Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's on
maybe.
Wikipedia. Yes. So, in this way, actually, when I'm talking about the Japanese cultures, this Japanese culture is not a pure Japanese culture. This Japanese culture is also like a reflection of like
course.
diversity of Japanese societies, and this Islamicate like Handicraft was saying like, if you are just like ordinary Japanese, like going to IKEA is more like reasonable or rational even.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you have Japanese Muslim, and if you really think that this Tawheed is like a colorless, like a life-giving, like inspiring water, which really reflects the color of the indigenous like cultures, like only like a Japanese Muslim or like Muslims have a reason to show respect and reason to revive the beauty of the Japanese cultures. So this is why I think I'm not trying to like bring like something new
Yes.
to like a Japanese community. I'm trying to like help the Japanese like society to remember the true beauty of Japanese culture. And also the same way that why I'm doing this, like why I'm introducing this Japanese Islamic culture to like a Muslim community, like outside of Japan, like in Istanbul or in London, or to the American like Muslim communities, because now we have like more and more like Islamic like discourse, but we have like less and less like Islamicate cultures. Like now we have surrounded like too many like words who are trying to arguing about like in the Islam, who are trying to like prove the correctness of Islam. But now in this like modern times that we don't have enough time to contemplate the spirituality of like Islam. And when it comes, for example, the cultures, in the Western language, I searched some of the dictionaries said the opposite word of the culture in the Western language is the nature. So nature versus like a cultures.
Right.
So that's why when we visit like a modern like a garden in Paris or the UK, the garden, so garden is like so like artificial, and it has like symmetric pattern because this is how the Western and the Western philosophy or Western aesthetic think about the culture. It means like using like a manpower to control like over like a nature. But when it comes to the East Asian language, I think it's also the same in Korean and also Chinese. The opposite word of the culture, I mean bunka, is called buka. And both words means trying to teach the people like adab, like etiquette, trying to like discipline like people. But buka, the opposite word of culture is trying to like discipline people with using power and fear. And bunka is also like they're trying to teach the etiquette toward the people without using the power or without using the authorities. And it's like this practice is, I believe that this is like this true. I believe that this is the true practice of like bunka, the culture in the East Asian sense. That without using any like soft power, which is supported by like a certain nation state, or without using any like authority to try to like prove the correctness of something. And I'm just like giving atmosphere, the places, so that the people can contemplate what the meaning of the Islam.
So do you see yourself as an informal diplomat for Japanese culture?
No, I never thought, because like I don't know, I don't like the word like diplomat, because
Or someone who's part of the soft power drive of Japan.
So the reason why I'm saying is that now usually like, many people, there are so many people who are trying to like prove themselves, or trying to become like a representative of someone.
Yes.
Especially in YouTube or TikTok, there are so many like the Muslim brothers and sisters try to convey like a correct message of Islam.
Yeah.
But me myself, I know my limit. I'm still like 33 years old.
Yes.
And I'm not like insan kamil or like a murshid like a kamil. Like I'm not perfect like a religious leader or something. Like, yes, like I'm designing all this culture to introduce like Islamic spirituality to the Japanese audiences and also Muslim audiences. But before everything, all these handicrafts is for me. Like this is like a method for me to contemplate about Islam.
Right.
And this is actually a reflection of all my memory. For example, like this calligraphy is the so this art is called Turkish marbling, ebru.
Yes.
And this one is a Chinese scroll.
Okay.
So this is like integration of the Chinese culture and like a Turkish culture. And this flower is called hyacinth. Hyacinth.
Yes.
In Turkish we call sumbul. And I use his hanging scroll in my like Japanese tea ceremony like a workshop.
Yes.
Because usually in the traditional Japanese tea room, the tea master always like hang there's a hanging scroll.
Just one scroll.
Yeah, one scroll.
Yeah.
But usually this hanging, so this like Chinese character is a quotation from like Zen Buddhism like textbooks. So we call like Zengo, like Zen words. So this is how tea artists are trying to introduce like Zen words.
Right.
But since I'm Muslim, I feel a little bit the awkward when I try to always like see these Zen words.
Yes.
And I was imagining what if that we like Japanese Muslim artists can create our own like hanging scroll to introduce Islamic spirituality.
Yeah.
So the reason why I put this the picture of the hyacinth is do you know the story of Sumbul Effendi? Sumbul Effendi.
So this is a Turkish.
Yeah, he's a Turkish Sufi master. So the story of the Sumbul Effendi is that his master one day his master asked his students to bring the most beautiful flower in this dunya, to bring the most beautiful flower in the dunya. And one student bring bring the rose, and another student bring like a tulip, another bring like the fancy like beautiful like a flower. But only the Sumbul Effendi brought really like a withered, the old, with the flower, the hyacinth which is about to die. And the master got curious and he asked, the Sumbul Effendi, how come you brought this like a like ugly-ish like a flower? And the Sumbul Effendi answered, I went to the like a field and I observed the flower, but the living flowers, they are all like busy with like longing for Allah, like doing the zikr towards Allah. And I didn't harm their life, but I found like one like hyacinth, like which was about to like die. So that's I have brought this like a hyacinth, to show like a mercy of Allah. And this like master Sumbul Effendi like said that this is exactly the answer that I was waiting, because actually this was like a test. Like he asked students like bring the most beautiful flower in this earth, but according to the perspective of Allah, like everything is beautiful. Like, everything was created equal. And what we can do is not choosing which flower is beautiful and which flower is ugly, or not judging which flower is like more beautiful.
Yes.
But bring this like rahmah of Allah, or in this dunya, to show the equality of the all creation. Like this. So when I put this like this hanging scroll in my workshop, like I am able to like introduce like a story of the Sumbul Effendi to like Muslim audiences and non-Muslim audiences. And right now in Turkey, it's quite unfortunate that this Ottoman Empire has like so rich, so beautiful like tasawwuf culture, but most of the young generation, they don't know much about their own culture, their own heritage.
Right.
And something they feel that, you know, this like talking about tasawwuf or talking about Islam is too political or too ideological, and sometimes they feel ashamed that, you know, they are growing up in this like a conservative like a background.
Yes.
But I'm encouraging, especially like young Turkish like people, that like studying about Ottoman culture is cool, or like this Ottoman or the studying about the Ottoman science is cool.
Yes.
You know, this Ottoman culture like beautiful, and also like this Ottoman culture is not like fixed culture, which you can bring like this full package of the Ottoman culture everywhere, and it stay like and it stays like as like a Turkish form. Like this Ottoman culture itself is also like it's also like a water of like Tawhid.
Yes.
It has like a Turkish like a sense or Turkish like a color, but when it reached to like Japan or Korea or any region, it also give like a life-giving energy to like indigenous soil, to revive the beauty of the like local cultures. For example, that when I'm showing this like a hanging scroll to the Japanese audiences, I'm not trying to prove like a beauty of Islamic cultures. Like I'm just using this as like a vehicle to talk like what would be like a common like spiritual ground like between Japanese culture and Islam and also Islamic culture.
And so have you conducted your tea ceremony in Japan?
Yes.
You had scrolls on the wall which reflected an Islamicate culture.
Yes, at the time I haven't designed this hanging scroll. I just showed concept art of my hanging scroll. But I organized this Islamic tea workshop at Tokyo Jami.
Yeah.
And this Tokyo like Jami is like built by the Turkish like Diyanet, the Ministry of Religious Affairs.
Yes.
And in this like Islamic tea workshop, I saw the second generation like Japanese Muslim and also non-Muslim Japanese came, and before I organized this workshop, I was really afraid. Maybe some Muslims feel uncomfortable and they may throw stone at me because I'm designing so like bid'ah things.
Yes.
But I'm really surprised that all participants really enjoyed it, especially when I emphasize the point that that this tradition. Showing respect to the traditional culture is not that just like following the traditional blindly, but trying to bring the new creativity to traditional cultures.
How much do young Japanese people today learn about traditional Japanese culture like the tea ceremony?
I think so few.
So it's a dying art.
Yeah, it might be like less than 30 or 20%, but yet there are so many Japanese who. So actually, on the ideological aspect, like Japanese may look really like atheist and very like modern.
Yeah, quite westernized.
Like westernized like people.
Yeah.
But on a practical level, I can clearly say that Japanese are really like religious and also showing respect for traditions. For example, like in Japan, not only the big cities, but in the small cities where my hometown, there are like lots of traditional like dojo.
Okay.
The Japanese like martial art. And this martial art like developed like through engaging with like Zen Buddhism and Shinto like cultures.
Right.
So in this way, they're still like practicing the like cultural aspect, their own like traditional like cultures.
Yeah.
But when it comes to for example like Muslims, for example, do you know Kung Fu, like Kung Fu?
Yes,
Kung Fu pandas, Kung Fu.
Yes.
For example, like most of the Muslims think that this Kung Fu is just like a Kung Fu panda thing, that just like for entertainment, just like more than like sports.
Yeah.
But if you study about the history of Islam, actually there are so many like Kung Fu schools which are developed by Hui Muslim masters.
Really?
Hui Muslim is a martial like artist.
Yeah.
So it was also like Islamic sports. But right now, like how many of the Muslims, not only in Turkey, not only in Japan, not only in China, how many Muslims in the Ummah know that this Kung Fu is an Islamic sport? And there's in Malaysia, there is like a martial arts called Puncak Silat.
Yes.
Silat, like it's also martial art.
Yeah.
And this martial arts developed by like Naqshbandi Sufi masters.
Yeah.
But how many of, for example, Naqshbandis for example, in Turkey or in the UK, they are like they know that the Puncak Silat is Islamic like a martial arts, or they think that this is like the Sufi education.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you open this topic.
No. So can I ask you then back to young people in Japan? Can you tell me what the extent to which there is a there is Islamic conversion. There are Muslims in Japan. I mean, it's a very big country. What percentage of Japanese population are indigenous Muslims?
Indigenous Muslims are so few.
Yeah.
So it is said that 230,000 Muslims are living in Japan right now. Actually, it's a quite huge number already.
Yeah.
But I think more than 80% or even 90% of foreigners
From
who are
where?
like temporary workers living in the big cities like Tokyo,
From
Fukuoka.
So they're from
Osaka.
Indonesia or from Malaysia.
Majority is like Bengalis from Bangladesh and Pakistan and Indonesians.
Yes.
But right now, we have like second generation like Muslims. We have like Indonesian Japanese Muslims, we have Pakistani Japanese Muslim, and like a Bengali Japanese Muslim.
Yes.
And I believe like this. So as for the population, that we are just like 0.01% of the whole population in Japan. Like we are just super minorities.
Yes.
But I really think that this like ethnic diversity is like really beautiful, and I believe it will bring a new creativity to like Japanese societies.
And do these foreign, because again, your original thesis is that if Islam is to spread in Japan, it has to accommodate, or it has to, in a way, be mindful of traditional Japanese culture. These Indonesian or Bengali Muslims who are present, do they exhibit, the second generation in particular, Japanese traditional culture, or do they have the cultural traits of their forebearers, of their forefathers?
I think so. Usually, the first generation, like they only like they are following the culture in the homeland, and they don't try to get like integrate into the Japanese society.
Yeah.
And the second generation in Japan, I think now they are in transition. So, and most of the second generations, you know that some of them really struggling about their identity. But so this is why I try to encourage this new second generation, like young Japanese Muslims, that that being born as, for example, like Pakistani Japanese Muslim is cool. Yes. Like being born as, like, for example, Indonesian Japanese Muslim, like cool. It's like beautiful.
Yes.
And then they are the one who bring a new creativity to the Japanese society. For example, this Japanese tea ceremony, like I am the student of Japanese tea ceremony. I think this tea ceremony culture is really beautiful. Yes. But still, this culture is in stagnations. Like most of these tea artists, they see this culture as like kind of like authorities, which doesn't accept any like Aryan like element anymore. But if we see the history of Japanese tea ceremony, this tradition is about like openness. Tradition is about like the flexibleness, that how much you can embrace the Aryan culture and try to like integrate within their own context and try to create new. For example, this natsume, name natsume means dates. It's not like Japanese fruits. And right now, many people think, for example, this Japanese tea ceremony is like Zen culture. So that's why I remember you mentioned that you bring like Zen to this room.
Yeah, maybe I was the wrong word.
No, it's not okay.
Yeah.
But, like, right now, it's correct. Now this modern Japanese tea ceremony is heavily influenced by Zen Buddhist culture. Why? Because Zen Buddhists bring the Zen interpretation to this Japanese tea ceremony. So that's why it became like Zen Buddhism like a culture.
So by you bringing an Islamic interpretation to the ceremony, you've taken away the link to Buddhism.
Yes, because if you study the early period of this Japanese tea ceremony, there was like a Catholic tea ceremony too.
Really?
A Catholic tea ceremony. Like Japanese, like Catholic, like samurais, they were using this Japanese tea ceremony as like a vehicle to introduce like Christianity.
So that's what you're doing now. You're bringing Islam through the tea ceremony.
Yes.
They would have brought Christianity or Catholicism through the tea ceremony.
Yes. So in the end, this is just a tea set.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about so this tea set is nothing different than the iPad. For example, this iPad Islamic or non-Islamic?
Yeah.
But some people say that this is like un-Islamic because this is built by the Apple.
Yes.
And Apple is a manifestation of the American empire.
Yes.
And this like tea set, this is not a manifestation of the Japanese empire or something. This is like just one traditional and like handicraft.
Yeah.
So in the end, like what is important is that what kind of intention you have and what kind of vocabulary that you use for the people who you access with.
Yeah. But I suppose from an Islamic perspective, and forgive me, I haven't really studied this in a very deep way, but from an Islamic perspective, my understanding is that, of course, Islam did not come to replace cultures, but certainly Islam would find it problematic to integrate cultures which have very strong roots that come from other religious belief systems. And so, yes, we may accept traditional Arab clothing, or we may accept traditional, shalwar kameez in the Pakistan or Indian context. But certainly, those things which are linked to Hinduism, one would need to reject. So in your thinking, in the way you view Japanese culture, there is sufficient separation between what you're doing and these other religious belief systems.
So I am carefully observing Japanese culture, but maybe there are some Japanese Muslim might or non-Muslim Japanese might make mistake by practicing with unpracticable practices when trying to create Japanese culture.
Yes.
But in the end, we must not forget that this learning Islam is not downloading data, right? Or just that we cannot become Muslim just watching YouTube channels or just downloading PDF files or Islamic books. For example, when we observe the history of Islamization in the world, usually in one region, when they become under the Islamic law of the Islamic Empire, at least it takes 300 or 400 years for the citizen living there to the majority of the citizens will embrace Islam. It takes at least 300 years or 400 years. And in Japan, we only have 100 years. But some people, they are so impatient. They want to see the result as soon as possible.
Yes.
But we have to. But one of the important messages of Islam is tawakkul. Tawakkul. In the end, Allah will decide when is the best timing for the Japanese society to embrace Islam. When is the best time for the individual to contemplate about Islam. For example, when it comes to the case in Indonesia, do you know this shadow puppet art in Indonesia?
No.
Do you know the legend of the Wali Songo in Indonesia? So Indonesian people believe that 9 wali, awliya, from outside of Indonesia, came the archipelago and introduce Islam to non-Muslim Java audiences. And there is one wali called Sunan Kalijaga. Sunan Kalijaga, he used this shadow puppet, right, which was actually Hindu culture, but he used this shadow puppet to teach Siratun Nabawiyah to Hindu audiences. And maybe if we only see this this event as an individual event, and then you can claim that this Sunan Kalijaga is wrongdoing a Muslim, but he's wali. And if he's more awliya, he's a Sufi saint, and not only the Sufi saint, he's also alim, the Islamic scholar.
Right.
Then it means there is a hikmah in it. There is a hikmah that Sunan Kalijaga, instead of authoring the books, or instead of preaching with the words, there is a hikmah that he chose this shadow puppet play to teach Islam to Hindu audiences. And right now we see Indonesia is now has the largest Muslim population in the world.
Yes.
So it means within this 400 years or 500 years, it's obvious that Sunan Kalijaga brought best seed to into the Indonesian society. And now the Indonesian, they're also doing the tafsir with the Indonesian languages.
Amazing.
And with them, Nahdlatul Ulama, Muhammadiyah, they build one of the best social institutions. And now they're doing really big Muslim social services. So I think the Japanese societies also should experiences the same process. My intention is that I want to make this Islamization process as slow as possible, as slow as possible, not just 1 second or 15 seconds, this TikTok things.
Yes.
I want to give them enough time to understand real beauty of Islam.
Isn't there a danger then that generations will pass who don't get to embrace Islam and ultimately are not do not find salvation from Islam and from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Oh, in Japanese society.
In Japanese society. If it's so slow and it takes a long time.
Yeah, I think this is what the concern
this is
the
the
modern
impatience of
Muslim
my modern
preacher.
Yes.
Yeah. But in the end, in it, only Allah will decide what is the best timing.
Okay.
Like no matter how we try to like teach Islam, like in the end we're just like human being. And for example, like maybe, and also suppose that there was like a Japanese guy that who was like suffering for like loneliness, who was suffering from, and who also who he decided like who could like commit suicide. But maybe at the time he only saw he saw one, I don't know, like beautiful like a Turkish marbling like this, or like an Islamic calligraphy, and maybe this like calligraphy like brought like comfort his life, and maybe like he gave up and commit suicide, but yet he did become Muslim. But still, like maybe still, like he decided like live his life, and maybe like every time he back from home, maybe he was like watching this like a Turkish like a beautiful like a marbling, and are we going to like judge him that he was not like he decided not to become Muslim? Because maybe in his life, this only like this Turkish marbling might be the only salvation he found in his life. And if Muslim judge him that he is like practicing Islam in a really superficial way, or like he is like not strong enough, or he's smart enough to become Muslim, then what would this man feel? That he will feel like extra stress.
Yes.
And what kind of image that he will have in mind. So what I would say is that also I know that I myself is not like in the best version of Muslim, so I know that all my culture activities is like not the best version of Islamic culture. But I think that what is most missing in this contemporary Muslim society is one is tawakkul and also like a sabr.
Dr. Naoki, can I ask you about these books that you've translated, I think, into
yes,
Japanese?
Two of my books.
Please talk us through these.
So this is my first book, which is published in Japan. This is a Japanese translation of the Abu Abdul Rahman Salami's Futuwa. The Futuwa, the Islamic like, chivalry. The English is translated chivalry.
Yes.
But I have introduced this Futuwa as the like Islamic like Bushido, like samurai like a philosophy.
Yes.
And especially in this Futuwa is talk about the importance of the altruism, the ithar, and also the importance of forgiveness, showing empathy. And this is what I found was missing in contemporary Japanese societies.
Yes.
So I thought this book would be like valuable for the Japanese readers to not only to know about the beauty of Islam, but also to remember the beauty of Japanese cultures.
Great.
And I was also part of the member of the Japanese translation of the Mukhtasar Ihya Ulumuddin. This is the abridged version, which is made by either like Ghazali himself or his brother. And I was responsible for translating the fourth part.
So this is the abridged version.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a complete. Oh no, this is just the fourth part.
Oh, this is all part.
The complete.
Mukhtasar, complete version. But we are so surprised that it says Mukhtasar, abridged version.
Yeah.
But it's too big.
It's big. Yes.
It's more than.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more than 400. Yeah. It's almost like 500 pages.
Okay.
It's really expensive. So I don't know who's gonna buy it, but if you can buy this.
Yeah, that's great.
But even this the translating the Islamic classic into our vernacular language is really like a beautiful process. But this is how we are like reconstructing Japanese like language into like Islamicate like a Japanese like language. Sometimes we borrow traditional Islamic Chinese terminology to translate this Ihya Ulumuddin. And another one, this is not my book. But this book is written by the Professor Mujahid Matsuyama, and now he's an associate professor in the University of Tokyo. Practicing Muslim. And this is a translation of the Aqaid Nasafiya, Japanese translation. But, the Aqaid Nasafiya itself is a really small book. It's just really tiny.
Yes.
Yeah, but so this, how much is mutton? We'll just check. This is the introduction. Oh, this is the mutton, the original Aqaid Nasafiya.
Yes.
And this is commentary.
Oh.
So commentary.
Yes.
That it has 400 pages. So it includes a 300 page like Japanese commentary, sharh.
Yes.
Of the Aqaid Nasafiya.
Wow. Yes.
And this is really important for the other Japanese Muslim to know that this yes, the Japanese Muslim community is still new, and we are in the infant stage, but there are some really productive and really amazingly Japanese like Muslim scholar.
Yeah.
For example, the Professor Mujahid is a good example that he was able to write a 300-page commentary of the Akaidan Nasahi here, using like more than 10 of traditional like shiro commentaries of Akaidan Nasahi. So it's very like Japanese community also have like new bringing the new creativity not only for Japanese society but also in the Ummah. And another book instead is that I'm also translating the Japanese classics to like a Turkish language.
Right.
So this is how I'm trying to introduce like traditional Japanese culture to the Turkish audiences.
Is this a book of fiction?
This book of like a no theater play. Do you know no theater play?
Yeah,
It's like the player using like a mask and ready to perform.
Okay.
Like a theater.
A theater play, yes.
It's like a traditional like Japanese version of like Shakespeare, like a theater.
Right.
But reason I'm doing this project is that without Istanbul, now I think the last 5 or 10 years, like we have like many like for example American Muslims and the European Muslim like coming to Istanbul and try to settle here.
Yes.
But there's so few. I found that so few of them are trying to work with like a Turkish like a people. For example, like I don't know how many people are trying to, for example, like study Turkish languages or like speak Turkish.
Yeah, true.
Like for example, like many people live in Istanbul.
Yes.
But they always like hang out with the like English speakers.
Yes.
And I felt this is sort of like makes me sad. Also like disappointing.
Yes.
Because in the end we live in Istanbul.
Yes.
And the fact that we are able to live here is like thanks for like Turkish citizens.
Yeah.
And also like right now, especially like academicians or intellectuals, like we're trying to show ourselves like a global like intellectual, a global figure. But also, I'm not judging it. Actually, I'm part of judging it. but also, it's really important for us like to stay in like a local or like serve to like a local like audiences.
Yes.
And not only like introducing the Japanese cultures. For example, the reason I'm designing is the Japanese handicraft, which is inspired by Turkish culture. It's like this is how I'm trying to show respect to like Turkish cultures and Turkey and also like Turkish like citizens.
Yeah.
For example, like I found that some foreigners, they saying that they're only like praising so-called like religiously practicing like a Turkish citizen, and sometimes they are like condemning like a secular like a Turkish citizen. But this, as I said, this is also like the story of Sumbul Effendi. Like actually every part of the society has its own meaning, and the Turkey is also the same. Like there is no like present history or unpresent like history in Turkish society. Every like step has like a meaning.
Yes.
And now, especially foreigner living in Istanbul, like us, we are also now the part of the history of the Turkey Republic. Whether you believe in the format of like a nation state, like or not. And for example, like some of my students, like they complain that these like English speaking like Muslims, they're just like surviving here, but they are like living with them.
Well, on that subject, I had Thomas Abdulkader who spoke to me about migrants, Muslim Western migrants who come to Turkey. There is an impression, maybe incorrect, amongst non-Turks that Turkish culture is not as open, maybe, to foreigners as maybe Arab culture is. Now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's an overgeneralization, but you are someone from Japan. You've been to Egypt. You interacted with Egyptian culture. Do you find that maybe in a way Turkish culture is quite similar in that sense to Japanese culture, which is a little bit more, less... how do I phrase this I'm not saying that less embracing is the wrong word, but they're less embracing maybe of outsiders or less warm to outsiders as maybe Arab culture is? I mean, is that or am I overgeneralizing here?
I think all the people who live in the nation states are like racist and also like they're not open to the different cultures.
Right.
But when it comes to like Turkish cultures or like Turkish citizens, like I think, for example, not only the Turkish culture, but when I take an example of Ottoman cultures, like, do you know the Chini sanat, like Chintamani, like sanat?
No.
Like, I should have brought the picture as well. It's like a traditional pattern which were used in the like Turkish art, which has like a three like a circle.
Okay.
And now the many Turkish people think that this is like a Turkish art, but that pattern is not Turkish. It's come from like a Buddhist art. And this like a three like a circle represent like a special like stone, like which used by like a divine or a spiritual like being, which you believe in like Buddhism, to show the the magnificence of like a divine like a being. And some of the Turkish artists like they like this pattern, so they observe into like a Turkish art. And so like some people may feel that Turkish people might not be open to different cultures, and there are some Turkish people who are acting like that. But in the end, I can say that this is just because that we are behaving in that way. So this is just a reflection of our behavior.
Yes.
So if we can behave like openly, the Turkish people are really open, and they are really like the guest. They like to know the different cultures.
Yeah.
And like for example, like if you want to know that really like Turkish people are like open or not, like you have to study more than saying merhaba, nasılsınız, or ben iyiyim, teşekkür ederim. Like you have to study Turkish in a really deep sense.
Of course, yes.
And you have to make a really like deep discussion with the Turkish students.
Yes.
And maybe there are some uncomfortable like Turkish like uncles like amcas who try to like alienate us.
Yeah.
But now I'm working in like a university in Turkey.
Yes.
And I know many like Turkish like young people, and they're really like creative, and they're really open to different cultures.
Yeah.
And when I see like and also especially in Istanbul, and there are so many like African students and Arab students and Pakistani students. They all like come into Turkey and study in Istanbul. And if they are not that open, then what is this reality? And in the end, like we are also living in Istanbul, and we are not through stones. And during the COVID, actually, there was the unpleasant event too. Like people think I'm Chinese, and some people that call me they're going back to their own country.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
but again, like we must know that not everyone is so strong enough to embrace the diversities,
Yes.
or face the like challenges in this dunya.
Yeah.
So right now in Turkey, they're all facing many people. They're facing like economic like challenges, and also they are not in the whole life. They're having like political like instabilities, and sometimes they are not good at explaining their emotions in the correct words.
Yes.
And in the end, they're also like human being. But I see this Turkish people is like most like warm and most like welcoming like citizen compared with any society. At least from Japanese, they are more open. Like you don't know how racist Japanese were when it comes to like they come to the foreigners.
Yeah.
So and all this new handicraft I designed, this like natsumes or this ebrus and other like digital art or this futu like logo design.
Yeah.
This is a reflection of my beautiful memory. When I engage with like my Turkish like students. Yeah. So my answer is that if you think that Turkish are not open, that it's just a reflection that you are not open.
Yes. No, I think that's a very good point. And do you see yourself, Dr. Naoki, do you see yourself to be someone who's going to remain in Turkey for the foreseeable future, or do you wish to return back to Japan?
Me myself?
Yeah.
I also do tawakkul on these issues. But as for myself, example, do you know convenience store? It's like a convenience store in Japan. I love Japanese convenience store. You can buy everything.
Yes.
You can buy like rice ball. You can read like a shonen manga comic book there.
Yeah.
And you can buy like a traditional like Japanese sweet. And also you can pay your own bills in a convenience store. You can do everything.
Okay.
It's so convenience store.
That's right, yes.
I miss convenience store when I was in Istanbul.
Yeah.
But this is just my joke. But.
Yeah.
But when I think about the Japanese Muslim community, I think it's really important for someone who had a connection outside of Japan, because if I know that the strong Islamophobia will come in a really near future in Japanese society, because I already see some kind of coming. Because, for example, when my new book will come out in August, inshallah, in Amazon, and every day I'm checking the Amazon ranking because I'm really scared if my book will sell enough.
Yeah.
But usually the top 3 are like it's like are like a books which is based on really like serious like discrimination against like Islam.
Really?
For example, that book is saying that the Quran is like teaching to like kill like infidels. So that's why when the Muslim come to Japan, it's exactly what gonna happen. Right. And it's like a bestseller in Japan. Bestseller.
Right.
And right now we don't have like strong influence of this book, but I think within 10 or 20 years that we're gonna see the result. We're gonna face the consequences.
Really?
And at that time, but as I said, right now in Japan we have so many like second generation Muslims, and we even have third generation Muslim. And not only the Japanese convert, we have like Pakistani Japanese, and Indonesian Japanese, Egyptian Japanese, Palestinian Japanese, and they're all Japanese. They are all our sister and brothers, and they're also like Japanese citizens.
Yes.
But maybe like it might be too difficult for us to not to survive in the Japanese society. Then also like other like brothers and sisters, we may also have to like choose to like make hijrah to like other like Muslim countries.
Yes.
But at the time,
but even for you,
I think,
even for someone who is born in Japan, you may contemplate. It may be for people who are converts to Islam, may find it so inhospitable, they may need to leave
right
Japan.
Now, we don't see any like difficulties.
No,
but
in the future.
Yeah, in the future, like maybe I am also considered as like civilization like traitor.
Wow.
So I think for them, to prepare for that time, like someone should be like live in a Muslim country.
Yeah.
To keep the connection with other ummah, so that these Japanese Muslim don't feel like loneliness or don't like lose the hope. Yeah. Because this is why I'm encouraging the other like some of my Japanese like Muslim brother and sister to come to Istanbul.
Oh.
Because here like not only like surviving as a Muslim, but we can like study something. So,
yes.
And every day you go on the street, you can study history of the Ottoman Empire, and also you can study like classical Arabic. You can also study Kalam and Fiqh and Tasawwuf.
Yes.
Then these things doesn't exist in Japan. These are great opportunities. And
am I right in saying that unlike say China, China has a long history with Islam, and there was a period where you had Chinese people in the Ming Dynasty who converted to Islam. Japanese relationship with Islam is not that long. Why is that? Is that because Japanese culture historically was very isolationist, and it had a period where it's until European colonialism that it stayed away from the world? Why didn't Islam, because Indonesia is not so far away, why didn't Islam come to Japan earlier on? Well,
we haven't found the answer, but I think the biggest factor is that this Edo shogunate, like a government, they practiced this isolation policy for the 300 years.
300 years.
From 16th century to the 19th century.
Yes.
Like, I think that was a huge, has a huge impact.
So what was the implication of his isolationist policy?
This isolation policy, the Tokugawa shogunate, Tokugawa like samurai like shogunates, they prohibited the foreigner to come to like Japan.
Yeah.
So they only have like limited like interaction with the foreigners. They only allowed to stay in the small like district in like Nagasaki and other cities.
Okay.
So I think this is one of the biggest reason why Islam hadn't like reached to the Japan.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Well, I think we've had a very interesting discussion today. So do you see Japanese Islam growing in the next few years? Is that your, with all of what you've said about how this will be a slow process, but do you see that Islam will grow organically in Japanese society?
Yes, inshallah. But another important thing is that it's not Islam, like Muslim will grow. And the Muslim who practicing Islam will grow.
Yes.
The number of the Muslim who practicing Islam will grow in Japanese society. Because Islam cannot be like a fire in this sentence. Because Islam is just like a deen.
Yes.
But what we see in this dunya is like people who are believing in Islam.
Yes.
But on this issue, I'm quite very optimistic. Because like whenever I visited, I go back to like Japan. I see like new Muslim there. For example, in Tokyo Jami too, like every week we have like a new Muslim like converts.
No way.
And also like the second generation, they are so creative, and they're really cool.
Yeah.
Like they are cooler than us.
Yes.
Like look at our uncles. Like we are losing our energy.
So these are Bengali second generation.
Yeah, Bengali Japanese, Pakistani Japanese, Indonesian Japanese. For example, in Tokyo Jami, there is really cool like Indonesian Japanese guy who is leading the young Muslim club. So this young Muslim club is also many like non-Muslim Japanese who are interested in Islam is also joining.
Yeah.
And also I know some like Pakistani like Japanese who are studying in other countries and who are trying to like try to help the next generations. But one of the important things for us is that eventually, like we Muslim, I'm sure we become the majority of this dunya. But being majority is not important. The important thing is that how much like we are working not only for ourselves, but working for the others. You know, how much that we can be like a manifestation of altruism, ithar.
You're right.
So in this sense, I really hope that I can also like vehicle to like investing on the like next generations, and not showing myself as like a best version of like something or like representatives or ambassador or some things.
Yes.
I want to serve to like Japanese youth and so that they can feel, especially the Japanese Muslim, that they can feel that they are like blessed and also like loved, not only by Allah but also like Muslim brothers and sisters, so that they feel not lonely.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like that we need to work for like ummah, and especially if you live in Istanbul, we need to stay. We need to stay in local. Yes. Like I know, like living in different countries is not an easy thing. Like there are the me too. Like every time I work in Istanbul, I feel some of the really challenges. But still, I love Turkey and I have Turkish citizens. I'm not the big like believer in the nation state, yes. But as a human being, I love these people. And before I judging them or like complaining them with a really like shallow like a comment or perspective, like first we need to try ourselves. We need to push ourselves to know about their context and know about history, and try to become like one ummah. For example, like one of the biggest challenges that we are facing in the Muslim academia is that we all try to study Arabic, because it's sacred languages, it's the language of Islam. But after that, they either they only speak English or Arabic, or if they have like a different ethnic background, they only know this like ethnic languages to talk to their parents or their families. They only know 3 languages.
Yes.
But for me, like English and Arabic and Turkish, it has nothing to do with me. Like I can live like ordinary like happy Japanese life without learning like English or Arabic or Turkish. Yes. And especially this Turkish. Like when I come to Turkey, my Turkish is really horrible. And for example, people in the street, they will always make fun of me that I'm speaking so-called Aksaray Turkish. It means like broken, like horrible Turkish. Yes. But still, I push myself to study Turkish. Why? Because I love spending time with the Turkish citizens. So it's really different. So what I want to say is that we need to show love towards like people, and also we need to be like self-confident. It means that we keep self-confident enough to expand our own like a world. And now I'm reading like Jujutsu Kaisen. Do you know Jujutsu Kaisen?
No.
Shonen manga. Okay, no. It is a different topic. It takes another 1 or 2 or 3 hours. No. But there is a magical called demand expansion. So this is how. So each of the Jujutsu sorcerer is like reflecting their own reality to the different world.
Yes.
But this is what the Muslim must do. Like this art or engaging with people. Like we all need to understand who we are and try to like connect ourselves to the others to create like to bring the new creativity to the Muslim society.
Dr. Naoki Yamamoto, Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Actually, I bring so many toys, but I didn't have time to introduce them.
We'll take some pictures of them and put them
thank you very much.
In fact, I'm fascinated by this fan before we go. Can you explain?
Can I explain?
Yes, please.
This one is also the Chinese Islamicate handicraft series, which I started in a project.
Yeah.
Can you see this Chinese character?
Yes.
So this is actually classical Chinese Islamic poem written in 18th century by the Chinese Muslim scholar called Liu Zi.
Wow. Okay.
And I have designed this fan because there are some like articles or books which introducing the life or the thought of like Liu Zi.
Yes.
But people who are already interested in the topic will buy books or read articles. But when I show this, when I always carry this fan, I can introduce the Islamic heritage in China to not only like Muslim audiences but also non-Muslim audiences in Japan.
Yeah.
And I think this design is really cool.
Yeah, very
This is
good.
so easy and ish, like a handicraft.
Yeah.
But the spirituality is based on Islam.
Where can I get one of these, Dr. Yankee?
Oh, you can buy from me.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, I
yes.
have some samples in here.
Yeah.
It's in Japan, but you can bring. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for your time
Yeah,
today.
thank you very much.
Please remember to subscribe to our social media and YouTube channels and head over to our website thinkingmuslim.com to sign up to my weekly newsletter. Jazakallah khair.